I was only 14 when they told me I would become someone's wife. 14. The age when I should have been in school, playing with friends, and dreaming about the future. Instead, I was dressed in a heavy gown, my face painted with makeup I did not recognize, and seated in front of strangers who celebrated a union I did not choose. They called him Al-Haji. He was a man much older than my father. His beard was grey, his voice deep and commanding. He barely looked at me during the ceremony, as if I was just another piece of property added to his collection. My mother told me this was for the family. He will take care of us, she said, her eyes heavy with worry. Be obedient and you will have a good life. But what is a good life when your dreams are taken away? The first night in his house, I sat on the edge of the big bed, clutching the edge of my wrapper. My heart pounded as I stared at the walls, which were covered with paintings of places I had never seen. He entered the room and spoke to me as if I were a child, perhaps because I was. He told me to behave, and everything would be fine. It was not fine. The days that followed were filled with chores and silence. His other wives barely acknowledged me, treating me like an intruder. I woke up before dawn to sweep, cook, and clean. My hands, once soft, became rough and cracked from the constant work. I missed my mother, my siblings, and the sound of laughter that used to fill our small home. Here, the only sounds were the commands of Al-Haji and the whispers of women who had forgotten how to dream. At night, I cried silently. The loneliness felt like a heavy weight on my chest. Al-Haji came to me often, his presence suffocating. I did not understand what was happening to me, but I knew it was wrong. My body felt broken, my spirit crushed. A few months later, I realized I was pregnant. The news was met with celebrations in the household, but I felt no joy. I was still a child, yet I was about to bring another life into the world. My body was weak, and the pregnancy was difficult. I was often sick, and there were days I could barely stand. But no one seemed to care about how I felt. When the baby came, it was both a blessing and a burden. My daughter was beautiful, her tiny hands clutching at my fingers as if she understood my pain. But the responsibility was overwhelming. I had no idea how to be a mother. I was still learning how to be myself. Years passed, but the pain did not fade. My daughter grew up in the same house where I lost my childhood. I watched her play with the other children, her laughter a painful reminder of what I had lost. I prayed that she would not face the same fate as me. One day, when she was 10, Al-Haji mentioned that a man had shown interest in her. My heart stopped. I could not let her go through what I had endured. That night, I held her close and promised myself I would fight for her, even if it meant going against everything I had been taught to accept. It was not easy, but I found the courage to live. With the help of a kind neighbor, we escaped to a shelter for women and children. For the first time in years, I felt hope. My daughter and I began to rebuild our lives, slowly but surely. I started attending classes and learned to read and write. My daughter returned to school,